People are starting to join. Could you please turn off your microphones? Mute yourselves, please. I think we're now ready to start. Hello, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Hisham, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. I'm an undergraduate petroleum engineering student and also the secretary of the Society of Petroleum Engineers. Where's that music coming from? We have with us today Miss Sandra. With us today, Miss Sandra joins us today. She's a professional certified coach with more than 2 decades of experience in helping organizations and people attaining maximum effectiveness. Hello, Miss Sandra.
Hello, Hisham.
The mic is yours. You can go ahead. And for everyone, if you have any questions, you can write them down in the chat section or keep them to the end of the session. And also, Ms. Sandra might ask questions during the presentation, so be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Hisham. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm so glad to be here. In fact, I shared with you earlier, Hisham, it's wonderful speaking and working with students. There's a different level of energy that comes. There's a newness of ideas. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you here on Zoom and those of you on YouTube as well. My intention is to share some learnings, some experiences along the way that I have gathered that offers something valuable for you along the way as well. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing some insights, and hopefully now you can also see a slide that's popped up. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about what's 80%, what drives success 80% of the time, which is the kind of mindset that you operate in. Once you have that sorted and that is strong, success reaches out to you. And it's not me talking. In the last 20 years, I have worked with some of the most successful leaders across the world, across India, Australia, Europe, Africa's, Americas as well. It's amazing to differentiate between leaders who have a strong, resilient, flexible mindset to people building their skill set. So I'm going to share some of the secrets with you in today's talk. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, keep putting that in chat. When I get an opportunity, I'll answer all of them as we go along the way. But before that, I just want to share a little bit, and before I move on, in what we're going to talk about, we're going to be talking more about how do we move from a mindset to Mindflex, which is how do you move from setting your mind to something fixed and unflexible to an elastic that is flexible, that can take on anything that's thrown at them along the way. One of my proudest moments in life came in 2017 when I was invited to speak at a TEDx forum, and then again in 2018. In addition to that forum, over the years, I've had the opportunity to speak at many global forums. I'm also co-founder of a global training company and train leaders in United Nations and coach visionary leaders. Now, none of that was even in my long-term goal list. I had never dreamt I would have this opportunity, the experiences of working with some of the best and interesting leaders in the world. I remember when I was in college, when I had finished university, I was very quiet. I was very submissive. I was unsure what I wanted to do. And I would just kind of allow myself to get into whatever opportunities are put up in front of me. And I would never look at something to unleash my potential or raise my voice or dream of something big, because at that point it would be very scary, because if I dream of something big, how am I going to achieve it? And that how am I going to achieve it would stop me from dreaming. And so the first 10 years, I kind of just went along in the organizations I worked in, became somebody who followed the charter with what my leaders would tell me to do, who followed the system, client-oriented, very submissive, did what was told, delivered results, but that was it. After 10 years of working, I then hit a point in life where I was completely unhappy. Although I achieved everything at work, from whatever you think initially, your salary, your designation, the experiences, but I still felt empty. I still felt there was something missing. There was something that I have not truly achieved. And that led me to my journey of self-discovery, to working on mindsets, to studying neuroscience, to figuring out how can I unleash that potential? How can I get and achieve things that I haven't even dreamt of? So that journey took a couple of years, and along the years, I also set up my own company. Never thought I would be a CEO. Expanded that organizations, worked on a lot of skill sets, built myself up internally, externally, to be able to do all the things that I'm able to do today. What I plan to do is I want to share, I have been putting up a toolkit that could help others who have been in my journey, who are struggling, who need to find that calling for themselves, or who need to look for the opportunities or grab the opportunities. And I created a toolkit called Mindset to Mindflex, and I plan to share that with all of you today. But before I start, I want you to look at the next screen and tell me how many of you feel you're somewhere there. So in the chat, quickly just type down one of these emotions or one of these states that you're currently feeling. Or if it's something outside this, you can also add that. So just let me know if you can access chat and type down. Is this a feeling that you resonate with, that is feeling stuck, or lack of innovation, lack of collaboration, moodiness? Just put that down, because these are signs of not having a strong mindset or not having a resilient mindset. Yes, thank you for sharing that. Yes, you feel them feeling stuck. And not to say resilient people don't feel this. Yes, they do feel that, but it's not on a prolonged period. It's for a short term and you get over it. So these are some of the areas, these are indicators for you to figure out that it's time for me to move on. I'm falling into the trap. Let me look at what needs to be done. How do I get into that? Because if we are in this state, we won't be able to move forward. And when you're looking at how do I move into a resilient mindset, a flexible mindset that helps me achieve whatever I want to achieve, I look at it as two parts to it. One is you need to create a foundation. Imagine you're building one of the tallest buildings in the world, Burj Khalifa, for example. What you need to do. So when people look at Khalifa, they look at the building, they look at the shine, the chic, and they said, wow, what a building. They don't realize how strong the foundation is, which is invisible, right? Nobody can see the foundation, you can see the building. But before any building can be set up, you need to create a strong foundation. So if you're on a weak sand, you cannot create a high rise. So for me, it always starts with let's look at a foundation first before start building skills or before building any kind of mindset that we're looking at. And for me, the foundation is to understand what's happening in our mind right now. And more often than not, we are sitting with some traps. You could call it mind traps, you can call it stories I'm telling myself inside, you can call it belief patterns, but they are somewhere sitting inside those invisible sounds and noises that keep pulling us back with an invisible thread. We don't realize it, but sometimes there's a talk that comes inside that pulls us back. So there's a great opportunity, but you need to speak for that, or you need to write an essay for that, or you need to go for an interview. And it's not easy. I may find 10 reasons not to do it. That is the mind trap trying to pull you back. And the mind trap is created the way our brain is designed to keep us safe. So the brain is designed to keep us safe. So it doesn't want us to get into the uncomfortable zone. However, the growth, like we've all learned, is in the uncomfortable zone. And that's where we feel true joy, exhilaration, a sense of achievement because we've done something in that space. And think of a time where in your past years you've done something that you've truly felt that you've achieved. That's where you've really pushed boundaries or you did things for the first time. So let's start with the foundation before we start building the entire process. And for me, the foundation starts with looking at the mind traps that could be present. And this is the main content of our talk today, is how do we identify these 6 mind traps? For me, these 6 mind traps, I've worked with thousands of leaders, I've researched this topic, I've had coaches who I've worked who have helped me find these traps as well. Um, and I feel most of us operate in these 6 traps. You may have more traps outside that may be available, but more or less we find ourselves being trapped here. And if we see ourselves in one of these 6 traps, it's stopping us to move ahead, to unleash and do things that we've never dreamt of doing. The first trap is fairness trap. Now, some of it may kind of seem, they don't look like traps to me. I mean, how can harmony be a trap? How can perfection be a trap? How can fairness be a trap? I mean, that's what we're taught, right? To be fair to people, you should give people. So let me talk about what fairness means here. It's slightly different to the context that we have understood fairness all about. I don't know whether you remember when, or you've gone through it when you were young. I remember when I went through it as a young child, I was always taught that when we disagree, whether we have a fights with our siblings or schoolmates, you're supposed to give a little and get a little. So it's fair, right? You give, you apologize, and then you get something back. So it's about distribution, it's about fairness, and that's what we're taught also, conditioned from early years, that it's about you say thank you say welcome. So it's all about fair. We're taught very early to, in a way, compromise and accept this system. However, as we grow, that starts creating expectations in us. So, and therefore, we have expectations. If I can do it, why can't you? I've had some coaches or people that I work with who said that I invest so much of time in this project, or I invest so much of time in this particular area, but my colleague doesn't, or my friend doesn't. And how fair is that? You'll hear that within siblings as well. And we look at, even, for example, COVID has been a tough time for all of us. There's a lot of people who've been unfortunately asked to move out of organizations. And in that, the question is, I've spent years in the organizations I've performed. How fair is that? I'm giving so much in this relationship. I'm not getting anything back in this relationship. So parents have that, children have that, students have that. All of us have started building this. What is fair? Now, what happens is when we get into a fairness trap, we start expecting things. We start expecting the world to be in a certain manner because of the way I operate. And when we do that, we set ourselves for not only just failures, but we set ourselves for disappointment, because the world or people around you don't operate the way you operate. So if you put in 8 hours, it's not expected somebody else needs to put in 8 hours. If you are fair, there is no rule book that everyone needs to be fair. If you don't cheat, there is no rule written in the universe that you will not be cheated. And the less we hang on to these expectations, the lesser we are free from these bondages that holds us on that life needs to be fair, or what I contribute, I need to get the same results. That's the first trap that a lot of us fall into, because that's something that we build up as in her childhood as well. The second trap, when we look at, is harmony. Now that's a funny one, because a lot of people said, how's harmony a trap? Aren't we supposed to be in harmony with people, with our colleagues, with our friends, with schoolmates, with our family? Um, Over here, I mean harmony as something else. Harmony is my inability to speak up, to challenge, to maybe ruffle some feathers for the greater good. For example, if I've had cases where in universities and in colleges and in offices, if there's a person who I respect a lot say something that's against my values, or if I have a better idea than the other person, I may not speak up because I don't want to spoil my relationship with that person. And because I try and fall into this harmony trap, I do a couple of things. One, I do not share an idea that would have been better. So my idea would have been better. I did not share it for the greater good of the organization or the university, and I kind of keep it aside. So there's a loss already to the larger unit. Second bit is because I keep putting my voice lower or quietening my voice, I forget or I stop speaking up. And I need to do a lot of work in trying to bring those conversations out. I start losing courage, because it takes a lot of courage to say hard things, to experiment, to risk failure, and also to surface conflict. But sometimes, while surfacing conflict, you actually deepen relationships. And that's why we say be careful of getting into artificial harmony, because true harmony has conflicts in it that are resolved in a mature manner. So harmony is not always to be, let me not ruffle any feathers, let me not upset anyone. True harmony has conflict in it, but you need to be able to surface the right conflict to deepen relationships. So that is harmony. The third we look at is control. Now, what is control? Some of us realize control in an obvious way, that I need to control things. I need to know what's happening in the world, or at least I need to know what's happening in my life, and that's control. And to some extent, it's true. Um, but interestingly, the more we try and control things, the lesser control we have, especially for important things in life, whether it's success. Not Success is not completely in your control. You need to also be at the right place at the right time. You need to have right people around you, and of course your own talents and skill sets as well. So how are you influencing that? Happiness, good health, all of these are larger goals in life where we don't completely have control. We may want success in the truest form, and success in the truest form could be, in my definition, and obviously be different for others, is to be able to do or get into a career I truly enjoy. There is no retirement life When I get into work, I don't even realize I'm working. I'm just completely enjoying myself and I'm getting paid for it. That is success for me. But sometimes, because that's not completely in my control, like I said, you need to be in the right environment, right people around you, we might start looking, we may get seduced into controlling some things that are controllable. For example, I'll take a job that has a decent amount of money and where I'm completely unhappy. I'm doing things that I don't enjoy doing, but I've held on to the job because in some way I've substituted that success as having a job and getting a decent salary. It works short term, long term. I gave you my example, how it worked out for me. Complete meltdown, 10 years. I had to kind of start from scratch and find out what was my calling. That's why we need to look at moving from control to influence. So I want to control my success. Can I truly control my success? No. Can I truly control my path of life? No. We can't control our own path in life because you never know what's going to happen. So how can I influence? So we look at a larger, I need to have a healthier life, a successful life, a life that I'm acknowledged for my talent. So I can only influence things around, work towards it, work towards right meeting the right people who inspire you, who push you up. Take up projects that may not look successful to other people, but you know it has a longer meaning to it. That's where we talk about what control means. Moving on to perfection. And whenever I say perfection, another one is future telling. I have maximum people raise their hand saying we are sitting in this trap. Perfection for me is all or nothing. I will do it if I feel that I'm good at, otherwise, I'm not doing it. So if there is a position that's opened up and I apply, I'll only apply for the position if I feel that I'm good at. Uh, I'll start writing a blog because I need to have my blog right. So a lot of people who, especially people who want to be writers and authors, put that off for years because they're somewhere waiting for that perfect book to come out of them, or the perfect blog to come out of them, or perfect article to come out of them, or they even put aside public speaking, for example, because they want that when they get onto the stage, they mesmerize everyone, everything goes perfect. But guess what? Nothing that you do for the first time will be perfect. Nothing. That is the fundamental rule. Whenever you try something for the first time, there is a learning curve. I remember when I went up on stage for the first time to speak, I had prepared everything and I forgot to take my slide changer. And I stood up on the stage, I had started speaking, and then I realized I need to go to the next slide, and I forgot the slide changer. I was being streamed on YouTube, I was being recorded. This was a TEDx event, and I had many people sitting in front of me. Now that was my first experience. Was it a disaster? No, it was not. Was it perfect? No, it was not perfect. Then I went on the stage next time. Next time, I never forgot my slide changer. It went better and went better and went better. And that's the purpose of doing anything new. Don't wait for creating the perfect situation of the world or the project or the writing or whatever. You need to go ahead and try. And that's why I keep saying, Nike's logo is the best for this. Just do it. Just do it, because once you start doing it, you will start then getting into the perfection journey. It's a journey. The first step is never perfect. So that is what many of us fall into, and we therefore start procrastinating. If you see yourselves procrastinating, you know you're falling into the perfect trap because you're waiting for the right event, the right time to take this opportunity. There's no right time. Right time is now. The next is future telling. Future telling is very close to perfect, but the only difference is future telling is I have decided what it looks like. I know how it'll turn out. So future telling has a sense of all the things that could go wrong. So if I were to link the same example I talked about perfect, I don't want to go and speak or put myself out there publicly because I'll make a fool of myself. I'll say things that people won't understand. People will feel that this is the worst talk ever. Um, my mic will not work. So I'll think of all these reasons and I don't go ahead and take the opportunity. That's a future telling trap. because you're creating a trap for yourself, especially any new opportunities that comes your way. And then that stops you for taking any new jobs or any new opportunities, or taking something that you've never done. Maybe you've studied science and you studied engineering, but you have an interesting opportunity in a completely different field in digital marketing. And they're like, I'm not studying digital marketing, so I don't think I'm going to be good at it. Let me give that up. Just because I said in my past I've not studied, so I'm assuming my future is not going to work. That's a future telling trap that we fall in. And many people who sit there miss out amazing, beautiful opportunities that comes, doors open and then doors close because we don't enter that door. And lastly is ego. Ego is where I'm protecting what I am or who I am. So I've stopped learning. I don't want to take new opportunities, and I don't want to put myself there in all my vulnerabilities, in all of my weaknesses. I don't show myself out authentically because I fear being judged. I feel if I say this or if I do this, people will judge me, and therefore it'll hurt me. That's where we know we're getting into the ego trap. And why do we need to go there? Why do we need to put ourselves? Interestingly, because if you don't put yourselves out there is no growth, there's no learning. And when there's no learning and growth, you're kind of stagnant in that space, and that can only last for a long time. We very often work with leaders who are dysfunctional. We get a group of leaders who are completely dysfunctional. And in 2 days, we work with them on their trust levels, on their artificial harmony. And at the end of 2 days, they go back feeling closer to each other. And what do you do in those 2 days is we get them to share a lot about themselves, of their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, what they think about each other. I know what is the classic mismatch of a human system is. Our own relationship with our vulnerability is totally different to the relationship to the vulnerability of others. So when we admit to publicly that we've done something wrong and we think that we've threatened our identity, we feel shame, we feel embarrassment, maybe we feel fear. But others who watch us do this have an opposite reaction. They feel admiration. They feel that we are so courageous to put ourselves out there. So while we are ashamed of our humanity and our weaknesses, others are drawn towards it. So they get closer to you because of it. And that's what we've seen when we work with people and leaders day in and day out. As you show yourself who you truly are, your weaknesses and your thoughts, etc., people start getting closer to you. And of course, you have to create that space. It's not for everyone. They need to be in that space to be able to understand that as well. And that's when we start opening ourselves to learning and to growing, to nourishing ourselves too. Now I'm going to quickly pause here to see if you have any questions before we move on to, now from the foundation, we start moving on to how do we build that kind of mindset to be successful. So I'll just pause a little while. You can put some in the chat. Any questions you have on these mind traps? Did you resonate with any of them? Do you feel that some of them are sitting with you? What do you think about these mind traps?
Somebody wrote a question on YouTube.
Okay.
He's saying, if I fall into perfectionism trap, how do I get out of it? Like perfectionism trap is he wants everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
So his question is, how does he get out of it?
Yeah, and that's a good question, and we all want to find out. Yes, we understand this trap, but how do we get out of it? Nike, just do it. Something as simple as that. Take a baby step. You need to set yourself for success as well. Don't take up something that the toughest. So if you're looking at a perfection trap and you want to look at one of the biggest goals to overcome, which is toughest, don't start with that, because we want to set ourselves for success. Start with something small. For example, if I want to be a big author and I said, I can't, I need to be perfect. Let me start with something smaller than that. Can I write a 2-page article? Right? Write a 2-page article and release that to the world. So on social media, wherever you want to release it. That is your baby step in overcoming perfection. Because once you do it, Once it's out of your system, your muscle memory, your brain, and all of that realizes you've done it. And the worst hasn't happened, right? The world hasn't shattered, your life is not ruined, and it has happened. And you never know. You may get a lot of compliments, you may get a lot of encouragement. That's just going to push you even further in this role. So, the idea for any mind trap, not just perfect as well, when you look at any mind trap, is first is understand where is that coming out. So, for example, the fairness trap, you're looking at everything should be fair. I said, who said, challenge that trap, challenge it. Who said everything needs to be fair? Who said that my future I can't be a good public speaker, or I can't be a great professional, or I can't be a great digital marketer? Who said that? Nobody. I'm challenging future telling. Let me try and see whether I can change it. The third bit, so first is find your mind trap. The second is challenge it. Who said I'm not good at it? Or even if I had a failure in the past, who says I'm going to fail every time? The third is you have to do it. So the first two is more the work happening in your mind. The third is you have to physically do it. So any one of it, you have to try do it. Whether it's, like I said, writing a little blog, having a conversation with somebody, a difficult conversation that you've never been able to have, speaking in a forum, wherever you can find people together. You're just kind of doing it to see that you've done it. That's the only way to get out of these traps. I got another question in the chat. Should I leave my well-paid job if the working environment is not healthy? The question is, how is this costing you? So you need to look at working in a not healthy environment. What is the cost to you? Because I won't have that answer for you, because I really don't know what the cost is for you. What is it impacting? Is it impacting your health, your mental state, financial? How long do you think you can sustain? So when you list all of this down, and then on the other side, you list what's your gain for continuing to work, and you realize where the scales are higher, you will get your answer. Does that help you, Mirna? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and then again I'll open for questions in the end. So if you have some more questions popping, put that on chat and I'll kind of take you through that. So we talked about mind traps. The first is foundation. Have your foundation here strong, which is catch those traps that you're falling into, challenge it and overcome it. Once you keep doing it, you'll realize you're getting a stronger mindset. It doesn't mean you'll never have traps. Traps will continue coming, but you'll start moving out of it faster. I remember some of my participants when they have this conversation with me and they realize this. As they're talking, they realize, I just got myself getting in the harmony trap. And they got themselves out of it. So it was as fast as while doing it, they're realizing the trap, they stop, pause, move out. So you'll see yourself doing that and it'll just get faster and more efficient and more natural. The next step is, now what do I need? So I've cleared my foundation, it's strong. I know how to get over these mind traps. Now what do I need to build this building of success or a resilient mind or a flexible mind? Is where we come to the sets model. So I call it the sets because it's easier to remember. Otherwise you'll get so many information, it's difficult to remember, but sets is easy. Sets is basically, first have a mindset of curiosity. Again, getting into any of the straps that you're breaking, when you're challenging those straps, it's a mindset of curiosity, right? You're looking at, what can I say to challenge this trap? Or what can I do to overcome this trap? So those are those answers that you're looking at. The second one, so curiosity is more around, and you've all come from that space. Right now, the space that you are in life, your ability of having a curious mindset is much higher than professionals who've spent 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 40 years working, because they start getting themselves set to what the life has given or the work environment has begin. But all of you are starting off. So you're pretty high on this indicator already. You're curious, you're looking at new opportunities. So when you're trying to break these traps, it's faster for you because your peripheral view is much bigger right now when you operate. And also because you have a learner's mindset, because learner's mindset is always looking at new opportunities, new areas to research, new areas to find answers. That's the number one building block you look at for success. The second, which is extremely critical, the only way to change people's behaviors, long term behaviors, only way to get rid of mind traps is, like I said, doing it, which is experiment. So, doing something, taking a small risk, looking at the repercussions of it, being okay with failure, not letting failure stop you, is when you will actually overcome any hurdle, any barrier, any obstacle. You have to do that. This all work cannot just happen in your mind. You have to physically go and try that out to overcome that bit. I remember when I had given this opportunity as a trainer in my very early professional years because I thought I could never be a good trainer, and I got really scared and I pulled myself out of that job opportunity because I was future telling myself I won't be good. And then I did this work, I found this trap, overcame. And the only way I could overcome is it was not enough for me in my mind to tell me, no, I can be a great trainer. That's a good starting point. It's a good starting point, curiosity, telling yourself you can do it. But the proof of the pudding is actually said, okay, let me take an opportunity and train people and see what happens. My first training session was one of the most important milestones for me to overcome the trap. Because when I did it, I realized the world didn't stop. It didn't crumble. It was not a disaster. It didn't kill me. It didn't ruin me. I felt good, in fact. I felt good. Was it the best training session? No. It was my first training session, so it was not best. This was far from it. But I felt so good because I overcame something that was a mountain in my head. And then, of course, once I overcame that mountain, it started getting better and better and better. So that mountain would have just been a small plateau at that time, but now I'm able to do all of that because I experimented. I did okay. I was okay with failures. I said, let me learn from these failures and move ahead. The third step, which is the T, trust in yourself. Even though you may not have evidence, even though you said, I've never tried, I have no evidence I can do this, trust inside that you have the resourcefulness of trying it, of putting yourself out there, and you're strong enough internally to take on whatever comes. Success, of course, you can take on. Even failure, you're able to take on. Because if you don't have an internal inner strength, you won't be able to experiment and do other stuff. And because if you experiment, there is a chances of failure. And if there's failure, that's completely okay because you've done something. And that trust helps you get over it because you know you've learned another way. If you remember what Thomas Edison said when he invented the light bulb after 1,000 attempts, and they said, how do you feel? 1,000 or 2,000? How do you feel failing 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb? He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways how not to create a light bulb. And that's when we look at, that's the mindset. It's not failing, it's finding other ways of not doing it. And last is, when you reach success, you will think you will enjoy and you will celebrate and you'll just kick your shoes off, grab yourself a beer, celebrate life. And some of you may be doing that. Or when you start getting success and you start growing, and trust me, I work with leaders who've achieved so much in life and they're not happy. They don't celebrate success. And my question was, why don't you celebrate what you've achieved so far? And the answer is, if I celebrate, I stop myself from achieving more. I will get complacent and then I will not do anything else. And I thought that was really silly because when you start off with your life, when you go and start working professionally, you're thinking of success and you're thinking of success and you think of celebration. And what happens is they become sad, uninspired, because you're just looking at the next goalpost and the next goalpost and the next goalpost until you retire. And then it's too late sometimes. So life is not just about the end or the goal, it's about the journey. So every time you try something, you failed or you had a minor success, celebrate it because that's your way of motivating yourself, getting you ahead in life. And that's what life is, right? It's not just finding opportunities and just doing it and then moving ahead and moving to the next goalpost, next goalpost, next goal. You need to enjoy it also once in a while, or more than once in a while. So that, my dear friends, is the SETS model that we're looking at. So just to remind you once again, SET stands for curiosity, experimentation, trust in yourself, and celebrate success. This is what I wanted to share with all of you today, is what is the foundations of your mindset? How do you fill those foundations? And then how do you build yourself fabric to reach the goals that you want to? So let's open to questions, or anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, you can. In the meantime, there are a couple of questions that's come here. One question that's come: what if I'm exposed to a problem in my work and I have not been exposed to it before? What should I do? Yeah, so I'm assuming, correct me if I'm getting this right. You're coming across a problem you've never come across in your life. So I'm reckoning you don't have an answer to it because you've not experienced that problem in your life. The idea, and I don't know what the problem is obviously you're looking at solving that problem. So what's your question over there? For me, it was that I'll be using my curious mindset to find out how do I solve this problem and get ahead, especially if the problem is impacting me. Shabnam, does that make sense to you? Or if you want to unmute yourself and clarify that.
Okay, I received a question on WhatsApp. So someone is asking, how do I stop myself from worrying so much about the future?
So when you're worrying, it's again, we're going back to the future telling trap. We're worrying ourselves about future. Why we're worrying is because we're looking at failures. We're looking at things that can go wrong. And because we're seeing a lot of that, we're getting worried, we're getting anxious, we're getting fearful, and that kind of gets us stuck. We feel stuck and stagnant. Now, to change that is you need to see what's making you stuck, is those thoughts of what's going to go wrong. You have to now untrain your mind, empty the cup to fill the cup, right? So, what are the things that can go right? Start making a list of that. So, anything that's worrying you, list it all down on paper. And then, along with it, challenge all of it. Write down what everything is going to go right. And start focusing on that. When you start focusing on that, you will notice that your emotional state also will start changing. You start feeling maybe more positive, optimistic, better in doing that. I remember in my initial years, one of my master coaches who had trained me said, life is all about on what you focus on. And he had done this exercise. He had asked us to put your eyes here, and he says, just focus on what you're seeing. What are you seeing? So you could only say what I could see from that small hole here, like a telescope. Like I can probably see the R on my screen or something like that. He says, just remove this and what you can see. So I can see, and now I can see so much. I can see my whole screen. I can see the lights. I can see the flowers. I can see everything around me. He's saying that's what life is. We tend to focus only on small areas, and those small areas could be things that could go wrong. But once we remove that focus and look at other things and start making list of other things, you realize life is bigger than that. It's bigger than these problems. And there's other opportunities that are waiting for us. Or if it's not, create your own opportunities. So what are the things you like doing? What are your wish lists? What's your bucket list? And how can you start doing that every day? Experimentation is the only way that'll help you get out, not just making a list. So start with things that you can start doing. So whatever you're fearing about or worrying about the future, replace it what can go better in the future, and see how some of it you can start tackling or start getting. I hope that answered your question.
There's another question in the chat. Yusuf is asking, due to COVID-19, a lot of people are losing jobs and there are a lot of negative energy. How to keep our positive energy during these tough times?
Ask yourself, what What do I do? What do I think that makes me happy? So go back to a time that I do that makes me happy. I don't know whether it's painting, listening to music, creating, sketching, speaking to a friend, whatever that's for you. Find that. That's your safe zone. You call it the safe, we call it the safe house. So when you have, for example, when the weather is really bad or when there's attacks outside, remember people are taking the safe houses. The safe houses are there to protect you, right? Till the attacks are taken care of or the weather is a little stabilized. So in the safe house, you're safe. So find that safe houses for yourself until all this negativity blows out. You can't control what's being talked outside. You can't control people not losing jobs. You can't control this pandemic. You don't know when it's going to end. That's not in your control. Let's look at what's in your control is the emotions that you're going through, the thoughts that are you're going through. So find your safe houses that gives you positive thoughts, that gives you optimism, things that you do that you engage and you feel joy. Find that safe house and be there until the dust settles down, as they say.
Again, another question from YouTube. How to strengthen the trust in myself?
That's a good question. People take years to realize that, and then they realize that they've always had it within them. I don't know how often have you heard. I keep hearing this from people after they've gone through a lot of life journey. They said, "I always knew it. I had it in me." Have you heard that sentence from people? I always knew it. I had it in me, but I knew it too late in life, basically. So the trust is I know that whatever is thrown my way, I'm going to overcome. And sometimes you need to tell yourself that. And that's one way of building trust within yourself. I do this exercises, affirmation exercise. Just yesterday, there's this group of people who had written an I am statement. I am, I can, I will statement. So my invitation to you, whoever's asked that question, is do this. Write an I am statement, I can, and I will statement. And it could be I am limitless. I can do anything in this world. I will overcome anything the world tells me. And these are your three mantras or three affirmations that you keep looking at and reminding yourself. And as you keep building up, you realize that trust is already building in you. Because anything that's thrown on you, you just say the sentence again. I'm limitless. I can take on anything the world can give me. And I will do what needs to be done. So create what is yours, use your words because they'll resonate with you stronger.
I think, does anybody else have any questions?
Actually, I have no question, but I just wanted to thank Sandra for the great value again today. So thanks, Sandra.
Thank you, Mustafa. I'm glad you liked it.
Welcome. He was just thinking. Okay, thank you, Mustafa, for the nice gesture. Does anybody else have any questions? I think no. Okay, so I'd like to thank you, Sandra, so much.
We've got one more on the chat. Just realized.
Okay.
Always, I feel I'm an introvert, but inside myself, I need to communicate with others or to improve communication skills. How do I deal with that? Okay, I feel I'm an introvert and I need to communicate with others. Communication skills. So if I was doing a session right now, Hassan, I would ask you to unmute yourself, to come on camera and to communicate with me. That's the only way to overcome your introvertness and to communicate. Anything. For example, you want to learn how to swim. How do you learn how to swim? You get into the water and you swim. You want to learn public speaking. How do you learn? You come up and speak. Similarly, when you communicate, don't worry. Your first few communication may not be perfect. That's fine. That is fine. But make an attempt. Even if you feel it's silly or people are going to make fun of me, that's their problem. You go and experiment. Experiment with people who are closer to you. People who resonate with you, who you think are my kind of people. experiment with that. You will find success on it. Then you move on to the next level. Then go to people who are opposite to you. Once you start building that confidence within you, only way to overcome is to just do it. Okay, I've got one more from Shaban is, what do I do when an error occurs in my work that may have caused it? Do I admit it, or what should I do? You're welcome, Hassan. If you've caused the error at work, you're asking me, what should I do? I'm going to be giving you a textbook answer for me, but of course, life is complicated. If I caused an error, I will own up to it and solve it. Maybe I wouldn't have done it when I was young because I didn't have experience and I would just hide behind my weakness. Now that I have a little more wisdom, I would claim that, be honest about it, have courage, show up there and say that I've done it and I'm going to do whatever needs to be done to overcome it. There may be a little retaliation, but when I'm 10 years older, I would feel so proud that I did that. That'll be my story to the world. Does that help you, Shaban? Sometimes it just gets complicated. We just need to bring simplicity in it.
Okay, again, any more questions? I think everyone is done with questions. So at the end, I'd like to thank you, Ms. Sandra, so much for being with us today. I hope this webinar is life-changing for many, and I believe it is like that. And I hope we have so much more cooperations in the future, you and SPE Suez. And on behalf of SPE Suez, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. And see you soon in the next webinars to come. Thank you. Thank you once again, Ms. Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Isham. Thank you, the SPCU's team, and all of you who are there present listening. My wish for all of you is to notice what your mind is telling you, spend some time there, grow strong, and be completely successful. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you for all of that.